Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Damien Bove. Damien Bove is the founder of ADACT Medical. And you can find out more about Damien Bove and his wonderful work at his website, www.adactmedical.com. Welcome, Damien Bove.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine.
Now, what we're going to be talking about for our audience today is the healing power of mushrooms. And mushrooms, of course, are a food that many of us eat regularly, but many of us are not aware of the healing power of mushrooms. So, Damien Bove, you are the founder of ADACT Medical. What exactly is ADACT Medical?
Well, ADACT's an unusual company. We started out as a regulatory compliance agency working in pharmaceuticals, biotech, and those kinds of areas back in 2004. So we've been at it a long time. But over the years, we developed specialisms in over-the-counter medicines rather than prescription medicines, and particularly natural products such as herbal medicines, and food supplements and things like that. And of course, over the years, we've done quite a lot of work on mushrooms. Back in 2016, we opened our own laboratory because we found we were outsourcing so much work. And obviously, it was also difficult to find companies that had the right kind of expertise to do what we needed. So we decided the best way was to have our own laboratory and get the expertise in that we needed to do our work. So that's us. Yeah.
So Damien Bove, you are the founder of ADACT Medical, and people literally all over the world will be listening to this broadcast, both on UK Health Radio and also YouTube. And people everywhere need natural healing remedies. So are your products only available in the UK, or are they available worldwide, and where can people find them?
Yeah, so we don't really have our own products as such. We work for companies that are developing and putting these products out there. So obviously we work on a global front. We have customers all over the world. The difficulties that a lot of companies find when they're bringing these products to market is service providers that understand the product areas that they're in and having the analytical capabilities to support them in the marketplace. And we've got a real passion for herbal medicines here at ADACT, and natural products. And I suppose that shines through in the kind of services that we offer to our customers. So, yeah. But we don't have our own products. We just we help other people get their products into the market. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Now, Damien Bove, you mentioned that you have a passion for natural foods, botanicals, and herbs. What is your personal experience in this area?
Well, I take a number of supplements on a daily basis that I think are going to help with things that I face with. In my history, I've suffered from cancer, and I did undergo a traditional pharmaceutical therapy for that, with monoclonal antibodies and all those kinds of things. But I used a mushroom extract to help me recover from that chemotherapy. And yeah, so. I use these kinds of products when I have an issue. I don't necessarily reach for the single molecule pharmaceuticals. Yeah.
Okay, and for our audience, would you mind sharing what kind of cancer you had and what herbal remedies you used to recover from your personal journey with cancer?
Yeah, I had a bowel cancer. I was very fortunate; it was caught early, but I did have to undergo quite major surgery and follow-up chemotherapy. And the issue with the chemotherapy is obviously it just causes rack and ruin to your body. I was working with a number of herbalists and natural product providers at the time. And one of them recommended a mushroom mix from a Portuguese company called MRL. And it was a range of mushrooms, and it was in a powder form, whole mushroom powder. And you just sprinkled it on your food and ate it. And I found it was very beneficial, especially eliminating the nausea. The nausea was quite crippling, and it was massive help with that, and just the general recovery. I had to stop taking the chemotherapy quite early on because my liver stopped functioning. But I was able to bounce back from that really quickly. Yeah.
That's amazing. And how long ago has it been since you've recovered from cancer?
It's been about 6 and a bit years. I had the all clear sometime last year. So yeah.
Congratulations. We're so happy that you're here with us.
Yeah, so am I. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Now, Damien Bove, one of my challenges as a medical intuitive healer, I have clients all over the world. So I happen to be in Atlanta in the US, and I know about different providers and suppliers in the UK. But when I'm recommending natural healing remedies, like if it's in the States, I can, if you're in my office in Atlanta, I can hand it to you, or I can tell you where to order it, or in the UK where people can order it. If people are listening to this broadcast and wanting to order healing or medicinal mushrooms for themselves, what websites do you recommend to where people can order medicinal mushrooms?
Yeah, I always point people in the direction of MRL. I can't remember what their website is, but it's Mycology Research Limited, and they're based in Portugal.
Mycology
Research Limited, yeah.
Mycology Research Limited.
Yeah.
The Mycology Research Limited, and they're based in Portugal.
Yeah, and that's they made the product I used. It was recommended to a mentor of mine who recommended it at the time. And that's why I always point people. Yeah.
Okay. And Mycology Research Limited, as you know, again, we're talking to a global audience. Is their website in Portuguese or in English?
It's English. It's an English website. And there's I mean, I've got I'm not financially involved in them at all. They're just a company that I've got a lot of time for. But they've done a lot of research. There's a lot of good research papers on their website about using whole mushroom extracts for various ailments. So it's a good resource. I will look up the website and send you a link. But it's in English. Yeah.
All right. And for our audience, you can Google Mycology Research Limited in Portugal and the healing mushrooms. Now, in this broadcast, we're going to be talking about the healing power of mushrooms. So let's go through some of these major powerhouses one by one.
Yeah.
So, Damien Bove, and you've had personal experience and professional experience with these remedies. What exactly is lion's mane mushroom? And it's such a great visual of lion's mane.
Yes.
What is lion's mane mushroom, and what are its specific health benefits?
Yeah, so I mean, mushrooms are a really unusual thing. They're not plants, they're not animals, they're somewhere in between. They're nearer plants than animals, but they are an unusual thing. And obviously we're all very used to just mushrooms in general, and that we have in our normal daily diets. And as well as being tasty, they're very good for you, very full of health conscious. But you have some that are extra good for you, and these medical mushrooms. And lion mane's one of them. Obviously, it looks like a lion's mane, hence its name. It's very shaggy in appearance. But it's the mushrooms, medical mushrooms share a lot in common with normal everyday mushrooms, in the way that they're the compounds that are in them. But the medical ones have certain properties that are really helpful. And lion's manes have these couple of particular compounds that are excellent for cognitive and neurological health. So That's one of the features of lion's manes. But all mushrooms, you can take the wrong mushroom quite easily for a purpose, and you'll get some benefit from it because they all share a certain. They're immune stimulating. They help the body in certain ways, and they're all powerful. So there's no wrong mushroom to take, but you can narrow down specific mushrooms for specific things that you want to take. And lion manes is particularly good for cognitive function, focus, mental well-being, and long-term mental health. And it's these arenosines that are in there that are particularly helpful for in lion's manes. So yeah.
Okay. Now, I know that when I studied food healing, which is the practice of using food for therapeutic benefits,
Yeah.
I was told that we ought to be eating shiitake mushrooms twice
Yes.
a week.
Yeah.
And, and part of it, like when you study natural healing, it's like there's all these wonderful foods and all these wonderful ways of eating. It's like, how can you get your 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables and your mushrooms? So what are shiitake mushrooms and what are their specific health benefits?
So shiitake mushrooms they've got quite a lot of meat-like properties in terms of they're full of amino acids. So anybody who's following a vegetarian or vegan diet will get a lot of benefit from shiitake mushrooms because the amino acids are just packed with them. But they're also noted particularly for their immune boosting properties. So they help with cholesterol. They help with cardiovascular health, and they're very immune stimulating. The polysaccharides that are in shiitake, they've got a broader range of polysaccharides. All mushrooms have polysaccharides, but yeah, and they all stimulate the immune system to a certain extent. But the shiitake are particularly noted for that. And of course, they bring a lot of umami food flavorings to your cooking. So they give that kind of like that Parmesan fullness that you get without needing meat or Parmesan. So they're good for a vegan or a vegetarian diet. Yeah.
Okay. Now, another kind of mushroom that many of us can eat regularly are Maitake mushrooms.
Yes.
What are Maitake mushrooms and what are their health benefits?
Well, Maitake is another good one because they're an adaptogen. So when your body gets out of balance, then that's when Maitake is very good. So people use it for things like diabetes, cardiovascular health. Again, and they're also noted in helping people recover from cancer. I never like to say they're good for the treatment of cancer, but they're good for people recovering from treatment. But really they're known as an adaptogen. So it's about kind of restoring homeostasis to a body that's out of sync. That's really what they're noted for.
And when you talk about adaptogen and natural healing, often we're talking about managing stress and managing stress hormones, right?
Yeah.
Such as, for example, the herb ashwagandha is a great adaptogen. So
Yes.
Maitake mushrooms also beneficial for us for helping us to manage stress.
Yes, I think so. I use various other things for stress and anxiety, but they are noted for that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
The good things about mushrooms is they're good for taking over a long term. Certain things you want to take in quite in isolation, you take a little bit here, and to treat a chronic, something that's just cropped up. But mushrooms are good because they're mild in nature. They're good for taking over a long period of time. So if you're in a state of ongoing imbalance, they say with stress or anxiety, people can suffer these things for a long, long time. Then things like that, they can be really powerful. Yeah.
Now, another mushroom that we can eat is cordyceps.
Yes.
And I remember years ago I was making smoothies, and health nuts will argue about which is healthier, juices or smoothies. and you know, health nuts can argue about all kinds of things, but actually the correct technical answer is smoothies, because
Yeah.
when you grind up your fruits and vegetables and your, you know, cordyceps and your other mushrooms, you're getting the phytochemicals that are in the seeds and the pits and the fiber, right?
Yeah.
So I can remember, you know, getting these little dried cordyceps and throwing them in my smoothie. So what are cordyceps and what are their health benefits?
So cordyceps are often about energy production. So people use them for fatigue, general sickness, um, low sex drive. That's quite common reason people take cordyceps. Um, but there's a few complications with cordyceps, and the way you describe it there brings it up nicely, because normally the way the cordyceps works is it's an invasive fungus that attacks a caterpillar. And the ancient wisdom with cordyceps is you take the whole, so it's the caterpillar husk that's left with the cordyceps in it. So, and you grind that up. But a lot of the cordyceps that are available in the market is kind of without the caterpillar. It's kind of not synthetic, it's not synthetic, but it's kind of a force grown necessarily without the caterpillar. Whether that changes its capabilities or not is another question. But it comes, but most of the products that people buy tend to be without the caterpillar. But the real kind of traditionalists want it with the caterpillar. But you know, it's obviously considerably more expensive to get it in that form. Yeah.
Okay, I think the cordyceps that I was taking was just the cordyceps, no caterpillar.
Yeah, that's much more appealing, I've got to say, to anybody who's a little bit squeamish. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
Okay. And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. We're listening to Damien Bove, the founder of ADACT Medical, and we're talking about the healing power of mushrooms. So Damien Bove, so we were talking about cordyceps. And I'm learning from you because I didn't know that the purists have the cordyceps and the caterpillar. So,
yeah.
so where do you find the mushroom and the caterpillar? Where can we find that?
It tends to be in the more traditional Chinese medicine shops, where it tends to be gathered in the wild rather than grown within a facility. So it's a lot more expensive. I think it's about $10,000 for a pound of cordyceps. So if you take
with the caterpillar.
yeah.
And
So
what's the benefit of taking the caterpillar with the cordyceps?
well, it comes back to this thing that you alluded to before about whether you take the whole plant or if you take it with just the fruiting bodies, or now the full metabolic cycle of the mushroom is really important. So as it goes through its full metabolic cycle, there's quite a lot that goes on under the ground. The mushroom is really the mycelium that's growing in the matrix, what it happens to be growing on the wood, the forage floor, side of the tree, or in this case, the caterpillar. There's a lot that goes on inside that mycelium, and that's really where the chemical powerhouse is. The fruiting body that we see that pops up at the end is really only a small part of that. So there's kind of two schools of thought. So when you buy mushrooms to eat them, generally you just get the fruiting bodies, which are great. Don't get me wrong; they're full of goodness. They're full of the kind of the phytochemicals and flavonoids that we want. But if you really want the full powerhouse of the mushroom, you need to get the mycelium as well, which is one of the things that the MRL company that I spoke of earlier, they grow the mushrooms on a brown rice substrate. And at the end, they grind up the mushroom and the brown rice, and that's what you buy. So you get the full metabolic cycle of the mushroom, which is a broader range of phytochemicals and different polysaccharides and things. So you get a broader range. So that's one of the so when you go when people want it with the caterpillar husk, because they wanted that whole metabolic cycle that's gone on with the mushroom rather than just the fruiting body. Yeah.
Now let's talk about reishi mushrooms. What are reishi mushrooms and what are their health benefits?
Right. So reishi is one that it's a good one that's in terms of the polysaccharides and they're immune stimulating, and it's used quite widely in a lot of foods and things like that. So it's one that people get quite regularly into the diets, which is useful. But yeah, I believe it's also good for the cardiovascular health reishi as well. So people often take it for cardiovascular symptoms and things like that. Yeah. So.
And what are turkey tail mushrooms and what are their specific health benefits?
Yeah, so turkey tails is another good one that's becoming increasingly popular. Obviously, it does resemble the turkey tail, hence its name. Again, like all mushrooms, it is immune stimulating. Very much noted for its antioxidant activities as well. But the turkey tail's real kind of tour de force is it's immune stimulating. That's what people generally take it for. So they will take it for, and it's similar to reishi. People take it because when you get older, your immune response tends to slow and weaken, and these mushrooms are kind of noted for their ability to overcome that, the slowing of your immune system. But some of the medical mushrooms, obviously, they don't taste very nice. So people tend to have extracts and things like that, where some of the more food-based ones can still be used in cooking, where, as you said, if you want to take the whole plant and have that exposure, that's a good way. But you do need to take the dosing with mushrooms, you have to take quite large amounts. So with the medical ones, it's better sometimes to get an extract or a dried powder, so you're taking a smaller volume because the flavor can be a little bit challenging. And turkey tail is one of those where the flavor can be challenging. Yeah.
Okay. Now, as you mentioned, there's some mushrooms that we may not want to incorporate in our cooking. So how can people incorporate mushrooms in their everyday cooking for health benefits?
Yeah. So, I mean, all mushrooms, because they are good, because they're a good source of polysaccharides, and other phytochemicals and fiber as well, calorie-free fiber. So they're really good for your biome, and biomes are really, gut biomes are a real topic of interest at the moment, about what you can eat to help improve your general gut biome and what that can do for your body as a whole. I think we're kind of, obviously there's people out there, and I'm sure yourself have been very knowledgeable at biomes and how to nurture that. But I think for a lot of the general public, myself included, it's only something that's really come to our attention in recent years. This fact that you need to kind of hone your biome, and mushrooms are really powerful prebiotics. So eating mushrooms really helps set your gut bacteria, the good ones, to flourish and really help your whole body. So you don't need to overly concerned about getting the most exotic and unusual mushrooms into your diet. Just, your standard culinary mushrooms are great. They're all helpful. They're all powerful. But if you include some of the the more unusual mushrooms, where you can, then that it's that exposure to more things, that widening of your diet that helps with your biome. I mean, there was an interesting study where the researchers went into a supermarket and they bought a punnet of kind of unusual mushrooms. They took them back to the lab. They were supposed to be just normal culinary mushrooms, but when they tested them, when they did the DNA, there was mushrooms in there that were unknown to science. So but it'd been harvested and was so just, yeah, you're going to, as I said at the beginning, mushrooms are just generally good for you. So you can't take the wrong mushroom, but obviously you can if you don't go picking them in the wild, because you can take the wrong mushroom and end up very ill or dead. But yeah.
Okay, and you brought up a very important point, because somebody may be listening and they think, oh, I'm out on a hike, here's a mushroom. Why should we avoid picking mushrooms in the wild?
Yeah, because the difference between one that's good for you and one that can look identical to one that can make you seriously ill or kill you, unless you really know what you're doing. It's even if you have a book to consult, the differences can be really subtle. And it's just, unless you're getting some proper tuition, I'd just leave it well alone, in all honesty.
Right. Yeah. Don't trust this for the amateurs.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we know is that mushrooms have antioxidant properties.
Yes.
And we talked earlier about phytochemicals, which are the nutrients in mushrooms as well as fruits and vegetables. Are there any specific antioxidants that are unique to mushrooms?
There is, and they all tend to have quite little anagram names like Keg and Kez, and I can't remember the full names of these things.
Yes.
I must be honest, I don't have that kind of encyclopedic knowledge. But the antioxidant mushrooms work in two ways. One, they're antioxidants in their own right, and they have an antioxidant function. But what they tend to do is they tend to stimulate your body to release antioxidants of its own and enzymes of its own and part of the immune system of its own. So you get the direct antioxidant content of the mushroom, but also stimulates your body to release the antioxidants that you naturally produce, your endogenous compounds. So they tend to work in two ways, which is nice. You get this kind of accelerant effect from taking mushrooms. Yeah.
Now, I remember when I was studying food healing and I was learning about all these different phytochemicals. Part of the challenge is learning how to pronounce all this.
Yeah.
And there's something called ergothioneine. Say that really fast. Ergothioneine, which is a phytochemical that's unique to mushrooms. And it's an antioxidant and as well as an anti-inflammatory. So now, how do mushrooms help our heart health?
So the help, I'll start this sentence again. They help heart health in three main functions. There's the kind of the immune stimulating, so your body's fighting things off that are going to cause damage to your heart. Kind of low levels of infection, and also their anti-inflammatory properties. And a lot of vascular inflammation is a big problem that can cause extra strain on your heart. So they help in that way. But also, a lot of them are being noted to be good for your cholesterol, bringing your cholesterol back into balance with your. So they really help with those three functions, and some are better than others in terms of cardiovascular health. But yeah, it's this kind of anti-inflammatory and then pro-cholesterol, getting your cholesterol back in the correct balance is really important as well. So yeah.
So I believe the phytochemical in mushrooms that lowers your cholesterol is called beta-glucan, and it's a soluble fiber that lowers and improves your cholesterol. And mushrooms are high in B vitamins. Now, I love your personal experience recovering from bowel cancer using mushroom compounds. How do mushrooms empower people to overcome and heal from cancer?
Well, again, it's this. There's a couple of big challenges with cancer. Obviously, the chemotherapy is such an assault on the body, and it causes all sorts of damage, and your body needs to recover from that. But the chemotherapy attacks your immune system as well, so you're not in a good place to start recovering from that. So you're taking a double whammy, really. You're getting knocked down, and then you're being held down as well. So, but this we call it immune stimulating, but it's not just it's about this cellular repair as well, and it helps your body. It tricks your body into producing these compounds that, not tricks them, it helps your body that really start this cellular repair process and the recovery and the healing. It's all driven by the immune system. So, you know, and that's one of the most important things, I think, is, and as you said, when your people are anxious and out of balance, then if they can get calm and centered and get some good rest, it can be really powerful. And a lot of these things help with that process of actually just enabling people to start their immune system working again, so the body's healing, but they're also feeling calm, so they're getting some rest, getting quality sleep, which is really powerful. So they do help in it. And that's what I found when I took the mushrooms. It was, I was getting that stimulation, but also I just felt I was able to just relax a lot more. You know, I wasn't, you know, I was a lot more at ease with what was going on.
Now, many of us, as you know, in natural healing, take certain supplements on a regular basis. So, for example, you know, we may take omega-3 fatty acids or probiotics, or you mentioned the prebiotic value of mushrooms, or you may take a multivitamin, right? So how can we take mushroom compounds over time to improve our overall health?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, you can either take the whole mushroom, or you can take the mushroom powders, which tend to be dried and powdered up. And they're good because you get a broader range of the polysaccharides and beta glucans in there, and the fibers, as you said, which are really important. Or you can take the extracts. Now, the extracts you don't get the same fiber, the prebiotic component, because they tend to be left behind in the extraction process, but you get the phytochemicals in higher concentrations. So if you're looking to treat an acute problem, then the extracts can be better because they're going to get this higher dose of the phytochemicals that are going to help you. But if it's more long term, then the whole mushroom extracts, powdered mushroom can be better because you're getting as you said, you're getting the phytochemicals as well, but you're getting the beta glucans and the polysaccharides and the dietary fiber and the vitamins as well, which you don't get in the extracts. So, you know, there's no correct answer. It's a mixture of what's. So I'm a big fan of the amino acids that you get in some mushrooms, and I take an amino acid supplement because I found I was getting brain fog middle of the afternoon. So I take an amino acid or a range of amino acids to help with that, and it eliminates that brain fog because it's basically the building blocks of proteins, but your body also uses them to fuel the brain, and anything that stops strain on your brain, if it's not getting the food that it wants, it's going to be under stress and strain. And I just think in terms of long-term cognitive health, I want to feed my brain the things that are really important to it, the omega oils and the amino acids and things like that. So mushrooms play a big part in the amino acid side of things.
And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. We're listening to Damien Bove, the founder of ADACT Medical, and he's sharing with us about the healing power of mushrooms. So Damien Bove, before our break, you talked about there's 3 ways to take mushrooms for medicinal benefits. We can take mushroom extract, mushroom powder, and also eat mushrooms. And I know here in the US, one of my favorite natural healing companies is a company by the name of Alchemy, and they make some fabulous alchemical extracts with mushrooms that are beneficial for your immune system and many other purposes. Now, as you know, Eastern medicine has used mushrooms medicinally for thousands of years. Why is it that the rest of the world is just catching on now?
Well, I think there's some of it's to do with our recent history, because in our own Western culture, we had herbal and traditional medicines that went back hundreds and thousands of years, and there tend to be whole plant extracts or whole plants, and that was our medical culture, herbal medicine culture. But at the beginning of the 1920s and 1930s, we had this invention of pharmaceuticals, and I think I trained in the School of Pharmacy, so so we kind of got into this thought pattern that was finding the single molecules, isolating those, producing those, synthesizing them, and taking them to achieve the same thing that the plants that taking whole plant medicines were going to achieve. So we didn't so much lose our history of herbal medicines and whole plant medicine, but we kind of just got bedazzled by the miracles that these small molecules could work. And there has been miracles that have worked with these small molecules and individual compounds. But as we kind of got opened up to to medicines from around the world, our own traditional medicines were really in the background, were being quiet, weren't at the forefront. So other people's traditional medicines we're going to face an equally difficult challenge to get into our attention. But I think now we're kind of looking back on some of our traditional medicines and going and looking at them again as a society, and we're saying, you know what, there's a lot to be learned there, and people take things and they try things and they actually get a lot of benefit from it. So we're opening up to our own traditional remedies, which opens our eyes and lifts our horizons up, and we look at other people's as well. So I think it's just things come into vogue and become popular, and then they go away again. And but I think traditional medicines is just one of the things that people are opening their minds up to again, and kind of looking at some of the lost techniques and plants that we used to use, and taking another look at them. I think it's just that cycle, I think.
So Damien Bove, you were very generous to share with us your personal experience in using mushroom complex to recover from bowel cancer. How do you personally use mushrooms today for your own personal health?
Like I say, I use an amino acid supplement that's mushroom sourced. I use mushroom coffee as well. So
Yes.
when I can get a nice one, there's quite a lot of good ones out there. One of the things that the bowel cancer left me with was an intolerance to coffee. My gastroenterologist said everyone's got an intolerance to coffee. It's a terrible substance and causes huge damage to the body, but you don't really notice it. But when you've not got much bowel left, then you do notice it. So yeah, I take a mushroom supplement in terms of a coffee, but I find it's and we're all we're all interested in health and wellness and weight gain and obesity and all those kind of things, and the mushroom coffees have a way of sating your appetite quite nicely as well, which I find helpful as part of a not calorie restricted diet, but just fighting off some of those hunger pangs. But the amino acids are another area that as I said before, I'm particularly interested in. Yeah.
Yes. No, one of my clients, it's funny that you mentioned mushroom coffee, because one of my clients shared with me recently his mushroom coffee, and he had been taking it for to lower inflammation. And it definitely doesn't taste just like coffee, but I agree with you. If someone is wanting to improve their health, one of the things they want to do is get off coffee. Why is coffee bad? Number one, the first thing it does is it puts you in stage 1 of adrenal stress. Number two, it's incredibly pro-inflammatory. If you're suffering from any pain, you've got inflammation. So if you're in pain and you're inflamed, you want to use these mushroom extracts, powders, and foods to lower your inflammation. And it's really cool. This mushroom coffee had a mixture of healing mushrooms in it. So Damien Bove, you are the founder of ADACT Medical, and you are a trained pharmacist who now uses natural healing remedies. What do you think will be the next natural superfood to take the world by storm?
Yeah, it's a good question, that one, because we all like to kind of horizon gaze and see what's coming up. And mushrooms, I think, have been bubbling under for about a decade. There's been a little spikes of interest. You read things about them, and now when you look on this screening services like Netflix, there's 3 or 4 documentaries on the benefits of mushrooms, psychedelic as well as kind of health and functional mushrooms, and there's things on the biome. And when I look at where we were with mushrooms 10 years ago, I kind of see seaweeds in the same kind of area. There's bits of interest on them. You see things bubbling up occasionally. They're in the press, but they're not really got a strong foothold. And they share some similar properties with mushrooms. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a great interest in seaweeds and seaweed products over the next 10 years. Yeah.
So you are a trained pharmacist. Is there proof that mushrooms work to heal us in the medical literature?
Yeah, there's some limited proof. There's been a lot of animal experiments where they could dose rats and they give them extreme mushroom diets to achieve a particular endpoint, and they report back these studies, but they're always awkward and tricky to translate into human. If humans could be treated as easily as mice, then we'd all live for 120 years. But there is studies. I can't quote them off the top of my head, but there is certainly a number of studies where they've placebo-controlled studies with mushrooms where they've given one patient group a mushroom supplement and then they've not given it to another, and they do report these beneficial effects, especially around cholesterol and immune stimulation. So there is some literature. The difficulty is that most of the studies wouldn't necessarily get into the scientific literature because it's very complex to conduct these studies that would meet the standards that get into the literature. And it requires an amount of funding. And the problem with natural products is there's no profit motive at the end of the day for any organization to fund these studies. So whereas when somebody owns a patent on a particular compound, then there's a strong profit motive to pay for that research and get it published. So natural products always suffer from this kind of lack of evidence. Well, it's not really a lack of evidence; it's just a lack of funding to produce the evidence. But there is stuff. There are researchers conducting science and research in mushrooms. So it is there. You just have to look a bit harder for it. Yeah.
So Damien Bove, if someone is listening to you today and they're wanting to start using mushrooms for medicinal purposes, how would you recommend a beginner get started with mushrooms for their health?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. As I said, it's hard. You need to go to a reputable supplier to get your product. And I hate to say that because there's a lot of small companies out there that are producing fantastic products. And, they may not be a big glamorous company. And so, when I say go to a reputable company, it's not just about going to the high street and going to the big players. Just have to do your research because not all mushroom products are created equally.
Yes. And I'm going to interject because earlier in this broadcast, you had recommended the website for Mycology Research Limited based in Portugal. And from my own 31 years experience in natural healing, I recommend in the US a website for alchemy. It's very specific, al-kemi.com. I would love to interview them. And they've got some incredible alchemically based products made from mushrooms for fabulous health benefits.
Yeah. So I would say if a company's got analytical reports available, that's always a good thing. So a lot of the analytical reports on mushrooms are, and they're not as informative, but they may just have an assay for beta glucans or erinicides or something like that. But to my mind, if somebody's going to go to the trouble of doing some analysis on their product, then they're the kind of company you want to take seriously. That's one of the things I look for, is the company got some analytical reports available, because really that's a kind of a calling card of a reputable company. They're doing some analysis. So yeah, but as you said, it's easy to say just go to reputable suppliers, but actually some of the smaller companies are doing brilliant things and they need our support. But they don't. Yeah, so it's a tricky one.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. And we've been listening today to Damien Bove, the founder of ADACT Medical. You can find out more about Damien Bove and his wonderful work at his website. And I'm going to spell that for you, www.adactmedical.com. And remember that when you use mushrooms through extracts, powder, or food, you can heal yourself naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.